Hello there everyone, welcome to the first non-strategy guide video of 2025, and in this video I want to outline to you 4 fundamental changes I would make to Gran Turismo 7 in 2025 in order to freshen this game up. Bring people back to playing, maybe get people playing a little bit longer, get a little bit of enthusiasm going about the game, because I think it's fair to say at nearly 3 years since it released that Gran Turismo 7 is getting a little bit long in the tooth. Definitely getting a little bit stale, a little bit samey. People are not playing for as long, some people are not playing at all. So yeah, this is 4 fundamental changes I would make to the game in 2025 in order to freshen things up, maybe give the game a fresh coat of paint and get people playing again before we maybe get some news of the next Gran Turismo, be it GT8 or GT Sport 2 towards the end of the year. Now, I think if you were to ask most people in the community what they would like to see PD do with Gran Turismo 7 in 2025, the kind of default answer is always going to be add more cars, add more tracks, and probably make the penalty system better. Now, I would like to see all 3 of those things happen as well, believe me, but I don't think any of them actually fundamentally change the game. So my remit for this video is that the suggestions I'm going to output here had to kind of have a fundamental impact on wide aspects of the game, and on top of that, they also had to be within the realms of realism and fairly easy to implement. So with that said, let's move on to my fundamental change number 1, and that is going to be an updated heads-up display. Now, when Gran Turismo 7 first came out, one of the things that actually really disappointed me was the fact that we were using exactly the same heads-up display or HUD that we had in Gran Turismo Sport. Now, the eagle-eyed out there can tell the difference because there's a couple of snippets of information in GT7 that you don't get on GT Sport, but it's 99.9% the same, and that disappoints me because really, watching a replay, you know, at first glance, it's hard to tell whether you're playing Gran Turismo Sport or whether you're playing Gran Turismo 7, and it shouldn't be like that, you know. You should clearly be able to tell what game you are watching or looking at. Now, if you go into the live events from the Gran Turismo 7 home screen, it's the purple and blue button in the top right hand corner, that allows you to jump onto replays of the GTWS live events. And it's a fully fledged replay. You can jump between the cars, you can jump between the camera angles, you can turn things on, you can turn things off. But what's interesting about it is we have this very different heads up display. And in particular, that leaderboard with all that information there is far superior to what we get in the game. We get information on what tyres drivers are running at the time. That's information we should have. Now, there is information here that you'd probably have to omit if we're in a race situation, for example, tyre wear. It's not really fair for us to know what tyre wear people are running. And also you get fuel information as well. But you get other things like best lap, last lap. We get the history of how long people have been on certain tyres. We get gaps between each of the cars. All that information is, you know, it's important in a kind of longer race for you to kind of formulate your strategy and stuff. So I would love to see an update to the heads-up display. What I find really interesting about this is it's clearly in the game. No, this heads-up display is within the game, it's within the code. So it'd be very easy for Polyphony Digital to implement that, and it would make things look so much more fresh, wouldn't it? It would be great to have like a fresh look to the game 3 years after the game has launched. So that is fundamental change number 1. Fundamental change number 2 is going to be camera angles, views, and field of vision. Now, on the screen here is a replay from me at Brands Hatch in the Honda NSX, and we are viewing that replay from helicopter camera. Now, you should be going, helicopter camera? How the hell did Wombo manage to get helicopter camera? How did they manage to watch the entire race from this camera? Well, the reason I'm able to do this is thanks to Got Max Power. I was watching one of his shorts and he had a little bit of a jaunty replay angle for part of the screen. And so I kind of messaged him, goes, how did you manage to do that? That's a really interesting camera angle. He directed me to a video where you can basically use music replay to hack the camera angles in the game. Now, don't get me wrong, it is far from perfect. You certainly don't have like that much control. There's a little bit of trial and error involved, there's a little bit of patience involved, but what it does allow you to do is to watch your replays from hundreds of different angles that are clearly baked into the code but are locked out to us when we watch our own replays. And the question has to be why. If it's available, then you know, if it exists in the game code, then make it available to us when we watch our replays. How handy would that helicopter camera be, for example, when analysing race incidents? Now, I will leave a link to the video that allowed me to do this. I'll give you a little short tutorial, but be warned, getting some good angles like we've got here can require a little bit of patience. Moving on to camera views. Now, what we're looking at here on the left-hand side is the Group 4 Lamborghini Huracan, and on the right side we have the Group 4 Ferrari 458 Italia. And we are in the stock hood camera view here, and as you can see, it is in a very different position. It means we get a very different perspective, and if you're jumping between cars, that can be difficult to adjust to. Now, I've used the free roam camera in the replay to basically adjust the view to give you a very similar perspective from both cars. If I can do that in like a minute, then surely PD have the tools available to them to make the view between each car consistent. You know, bumper cam gets a consistent view, chase camera gets a consistent view between each car. Cockpit camera, that's something we'll talk about in the next section, but we shouldn't have cars from the same class having very different perspectives. What we should have though is much more control over the viewpoint that we choose to play from and being able to customise that to our liking. Now, nobody plays Gran Turismo 7, or very few people play Gran Turismo 7 in cockpit view, because the customisation and the ability to change your field of view and your height and to make the camera angle and view suitable for you is just not available to us. If we take a look at what ACC allows us to do in PS5, not just in cockpit camera but also chase camera and bumper camera, we have a massive amount of customisation. So for 2025, I would love to see Polyphony Digital give us the full array and range of customisable options from our viewpoint so we can play the game the way that we want to. Moving on to fundamental change number 3, we're going to talk about daily races and quality control. I think it's pretty clear to anyone that's played the game for any length of time, there is a distinct lack of quality control in the daily races. Often mistakes are made in the settings that mean that a race that could be interesting for 4 or 5 days, maybe the full week, dies off in a day. So I think for a priority, PD need to get somebody who's solely in charge of the daily races and get some decent quality control in there and get a consistency between races from week to week as well. So for example, you know, daily race B is sometimes 6 minutes and sometimes it's 12 minutes. It should always be sitting in that kind of range of 12 minutes. Now, we all know about the kind of ongoing problem of repeated combinations as well. Some of it's justified, some of it I would say not justified, but in the case of, you know, justifying that criticism, we are at Brands Hatch for the 5th time in Group 4 this week as I put this video out, and there's obviously a lot of tracks out there that we've only ever visited once in Group 4 before, or indeed not at all. So somebody needs to sit down, make it their priority to get some fresh combinations on the board and start using them in 2025. Next up, we have a little example of what quality control should be picking up. These kind of pointless pit stops. At Monza last week, we were on the hard tyres, fuel at times 1, tyres at times 1, we had a mandatory pit stop. We should not be making pit stops for no reason. If we're making a pit stop, we should be taking fuel on, or we should be taking tyres on, one or the other, or both. This one will come as no surprise to anyone that's a regular viewer, but yeah, for the love of God, PD, stop using custom slipstream, or at the very least stop using it below Group 2. Above Group 2 and above, I can at least understand your reasoning with the dirty air, but Group 3, Group 4, it's just stupid. It does two things, custom slipstream. It either creates absolute chaos, which stops people playing because they get punted off, because people are going for overtakes in every race, or, for example, in Monza here, it stops people racing, because it was so much quicker to just sit in the custom slipstream of a quick driver. For example, we've got 5 drivers here, not one of them went for an overtake this entire race, because it was so much faster to just follow the car in front. It's almost like an anti-racing thing. So just get rid of it for Group 3, Group 4. Use it for Group 2 Super Formula, that's fine, but get rid of it below those categories. Now, obviously, I could go on for a long time about what's wrong with the daily races, but we'll finish off this section with a little kind of example of an inconsistent race setting. So Brands Hatch here, we're finishing the race in 16.5 minutes, and then Sardinia a couple of weeks ago, we're finishing it in just over 20 minutes. We shouldn't have inconsistent race settings like this, you know. Daily race C should always be at least minimum 20 minutes. Daily race B, 12 minutes. These are the little things that quality control should be picking up. So I'd like to see much better quality control for the daily races in 2025. Next up at number 4, I want to see much more interesting time trials. And I don't just mean like lap time challenge. I want to see kind of like hot stints getting brought into the time trials. For me, these kind of single laps are a little bit crap. I'm going to be honest with you. I think most people probably do what I do in these. So I jumped into this one this morning. I did no practice whatsoever, and on the 4th lap I got the gold time by 3/10. And I'm going to do a further lap here just to cement it. And I'm going to be comfortably within the gold time. The gold time is a 2:20.9. Now I would imagine most people do what I do here. You sit down for 10-15 minutes, do a lap, and get a good enough lap time for your ability, and don't look back at it. So yeah, I just don't really see the appeal for it. And don't get me wrong, I know people like time trials, and I know people have like interpersonal competitions with their friends to see who can finish the highest. So I'm not advocating for getting rid of these time trials at all. What I would like to see though is just things being done a little bit more interesting. Why can we not have like a time trial that's more like a kind of hot stint? So maybe it's a 5-lap race or stint that you've got to do on, with a little bit of tyre wear in there, maybe a little bit of fuel saving required. We could have examples of 5 laps at Fuji where the track starts wet and then dries, or we could have the other way around, the track starts dry but then a deluge comes down on the last lap that overwhelms the dry tyres that you're on, and you've got to try and crawl the car around. It would just make things a lot more interesting and fresh. I think people would get a lot more replayability out of it as well. You could have like different prizes as well for these kind of hot stints, so why not have, if you finish in the top 5,000, you get a ticket for a Legends dealer car or something. There's just a lot more that can be done with these time trials. I basically do this. I got 12 minutes of value out this time trial, so yeah, that was enough to easily give me the gold, and I'm not going to go back to this. I've got no reason to go back to it. I don't really care where I finish on my friend's leaderboard, so yeah, I would just like to see more being done with these online time trials. So there you have it, folks. That is 4 fundamental changes I would love to see PD implement for 2025. I think all of these are easily possible for them to do with not a massive amount of work. I mean, for example, the heads-up display is already in the game. The replay angles are already in the game. It's just a case of unlocking them so that we can actually use them. We could come up with some other things here as well, but these were the 4 that I thought were probably the most important to kind of give the game a fundamental freshen up, get people back playing, make things look a bit more interesting. You know, quality control on daily races, this should have been happening from day one. It shouldn't be 3 years down we're still going, where is the quality control on the daily races? But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, folks. I think we'll probably get a lot of people mentioning the penalty system in the comments, because that seems to be something that a lot of people get annoyed about. But for me personally, I don't really have many issues with the penalty system. Personally, I don't get too many penalties. I'm not saying it's good or perfect and can't be improved, but fixing the penalty system I don't think will really have a fundamental impact on the game, certainly for me, and that's why I never mentioned it in this one. But thank you very much for watching, folks. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye now.